Greetings, my friends. Father Leo here on this, the third Sunday of Advent, as we're moving very quickly through this great season to coming to celebrate the birth of Jesus at Christmas time. And it's certainly, we have to keep in mind that Christmas is more than shopping, consumerism, and Christmas trees. It is first and foremost a time to celebrate the birth of Jesus, which of course is pretty well ignored because we're so busy with Santa Claus. Anyway, we want to continue on where I left off last week, and we already touched on birthing, but I want to explore that a little further today. And the second reading that we chose is very clear. It seems that St. Paul, 2,000 years ago, somehow had an enlightened moment when he was writing a letter to the Romans, because he talks about the very thing of birthing. Here's what I read. Paul wrote, "We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now." And not only the creation, but we ourselves, the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly. So St. Paul is very good at, somehow he had an insight and inspiration which enabled him to liken birthing that was happening even in his time and what he saw. And of course, that's what we're all about here today, from where we left off last week, is the notion of birthing. And so we've been working at moving a transition, if you will, moving from the traditional paradigm of fall, and then, creation, fall, redemption. Creation, fall, redemption. That's the traditional paradigm. Well, in a way it is. It only started in the 4th century with the notion of original sin. But that's been the predominant paradigm since then. But times have changed. Science has opened up to us a whole new window through which we can look at creation. And so last week we posited the fact that creation started, it really never started. The Great Spirit has always been. It's the eternal Spirit. And so it talked about birthing. Now, when we talk about this today, first, before I talk about the birthing, I want to say there's something going on in the universe, on planet Earth, something that's much bigger than anything we know about. One of the things I notice in reading is the German bishops are very much moving the church in Germany into the new paradigm of evolutionary spirituality. Isn't this interesting? It's led by the German bishops. And naturally, that means the clergy and the people are all blessed and benefiting from their kind of leadership. Now, a lot of the traditionalists are accusing the German bishops of taking the German church into schism. So the fear is there. And yet when I look at what they're doing and read about what they're saying, then I really see that they are indeed starting to birth the new paradigm, the German bishops. And to me, that is very encouraging. And here we are in little old Peterborough. Who knows where Peterborough is outside of people in Peterborough? Anyway, but nevertheless, we are in the bubble. And that's what I have to keep in mind. We are in the bubble, the same bubble as the German bishops and other people who are birthing a new paradigm. The evolutionary spirituality paradigm. That's the name of it. And we need to know that very well. Now, having said that, the idea of birthing, and it's something I'm very familiar with. Growing up in in a country on a farm, you're constantly surrounded with animals, and you see them being impregnated with the male. You see them being pregnant, and then the moment of birthing. And I know myself, I've often had to get down and get my hands dirty because an animal was having difficulty in birthing. Now, I don't have all the instruments that doctors have. In fact, I didn't know what I was doing. The only thing I knew what I was doing, I was helping a cow who was in trouble in birthing. I was helping her to birth her child, her baby, her calf. And once that calf was birthed, how quickly he or she stood up, and the mother turned her head and she cleaned up the calf, especially around her eyes and nose and head. And then immediately the calf turned to the mother cow in order to be fed. So nature at its best. I saw nature at its very best, and it's left a lasting impression on me when it comes to birthing and some of the wonder and awe to see this new life come from within the mother cow, the mare, the mother horse, and other ways. So it really is a treat, and it's very educational. So evolutionary spirituality is what we're talking about. And what we're talking about here is the Great Spirit. And we're kind of getting used, I hope, to using the term Great Spirit, because the Great Spirit has expressed itself as a creator, creating, not a creator, creating. So evolutionary spirituality is birthing, and and that God is a birther. God births by the power of the Great Spirit, the life force that God is always birthing. Always birthing. Master Eckhart, a great mystic, German mystic, gave us a metaphor which I think is really a powerful metaphor. He says that, he asks the question, what does God do all day? What does God do all day? Do you ever wonder yourself? Well, Master Eckhart said, God is lying on a maternity bed and birthing all day long and all night long. God is a birther. He births the stars, the galaxies, the planets, flowers, every kind of life there is, including animal and human, even bacteria. God is a birthing God. Now there's something for us to hang our hats on, to see that God is indeed birthing constantly, but it's an ongoing process. The scientists call it evolution. We call it ongoing birthing. And of course it ends up even with the earth itself, who's been birthed. And the earth, of course, having been birthed, in turn births. The earth is a birthing earth, birthing mountains and lakes, and rivers and oceans, hills and valleys, bacteria, plants and trees, birds and animals, and humans. And it's all a web of life. There's the big thing you have to get. If you don't get that, you miss the whole mark. It's a web of life. Everything is interconnected. It's one. The great mystic Julian of Norwich called it oneness. Oneness. And it takes a certain degree of looking to be able to see oneness, that all is one. But that's the reality. And so this birthing God, that's the big thing, the birthing. And I think the big thing, too, about the birthing God, we generally, birthing is, on one hand, when we talk about bodies, feminine. Birthing is a feminine process. And of course, being feminine, it gives a whole sense of the feminine side of God, which is opposed to the God of the traditional paradigm, an authoritarian, rule maker, rule enforcer, judge, punitive. Generally it's associated in literature as masculine traits, but not with feminine. And so with feminine, you get the nurturing. You get the nurturing aspect of God, that God is a nurturer. And the other thing you get, of course, in this is that we often think of Jesus as the incarnation, where God become human. My friends, 14 billion years ago, at the Great Bang, the Spirit became one with matter. Embodiment started 14 billion years ago, not 6,000 years ago. It's a much longer story, and it's a beautiful and a powerful story of God as birtherer, and the significance of it, the femininity of it, and the triumph of feminine. And yet, in the world in which we live, in many ways, the authoritarian God gave a lot of men permission, as they thought, to rule. And yes, even oppress women. But you see, if we had a feminine sense of a feminine life force, birthing, then perhaps we would see that we'd be more equal. The nurturing aspect of God would be paramount, not the ruler and the authoritarian figure. And the second thing it would also tell us, that it's round. It's round. So much of our world is triangle. You know, the prime minister is at the top, the premier's at the top, the king's at the top, pope's at the top. There's always somebody at the top, and under them there's somebody else on the top. And so you got top, all the way down to the poor peasants. So that's not it. It's round, it's organic, it's a round, interconnected, or they use the term in science, the web of life, or the body of God. It's all the body of one body of God made up of many bodies, but it's still one body, the body of God, of which we are indeed, the humans. We are one small aspect of that great body, one small aspect. And that too puts things into perspective, that we don't see ourselves as King Tut sitting on a golden throne ruling over creation. It's not by accident that our ancient ancestors called the earth Mother Earth, birthing again. Birthing, because those people somehow were enlightened and they could see how the earth was birthing all the time, birthing. And the web of life. And somehow St. Paul picked that up in that passage about groaning. Groaning, giving birth and groaning. And certainly our earth is growing today with climate warming, floods, drought, fires, pollution. In many ways, our earth is groaning, giving birth. But it's not just that negativity, it's the very fact that there's new birthing taking place. I made reference to the German bishops who seem to be buying into and promoting the evolutionary spirituality paradigm. So it's moving. And amongst ourselves, if we're really taking it to heart and taking it to prayer, if we're really trying to see, then we have an opportunity to be in the cutting edge of something new. Something new is being born. It is being born. And in the churches where it's the same old, or where they're reworking the same old, Jesus was very clear. You don't put new wine into a new wineskin. The wineskin is the paradigm, traditional paradigm. And it's not new wine that's going in. It's old wine that's been reworked. The new wine in the new wineskin is the new paradigm. The new paradigm, evolutionary spirituality, is the new paradigm, the new container, if you want to. And it's the new wine that is being born by the life force of the Great Spirit, which empowers God to be creative, to give birth. But it's that whole sense of birthing, the life force that's doing it. And if we're open and willing, the life force will work in us. If we're not, of course, it won't. So that's up to us. Whether or not we do want to just stand pat with the same old, or do we want to join the people who are indeed moving forward and birthing. We are all to be birthers. I know myself, I try to each week to birth anew what we're doing here on Sunday, to give birth to a new way of looking at things and to share that with you. And then when you talk and give feedback and share, well, I've asked you here on Sundays, when you share, don't give me examples of human endeavors, but rather something about creation, evolutionary spirituality. Now, we will get back to the humans eventually, yes, we will, but in the meantime, our journey right now is to explore evolutionary spirituality, the new paradigm, so that we can see humans in a whole new light. And that we will continue to do. God bless.